This is Macy. Say hello. I know. Oh, she's a bit old. Today I've decided to do a different video that I've been wanting to film for pretty much since the whole time I've been on YouTube. As most of you probably know, I started my channel to be a mental health channel, and sometimes I like veer off into other directions because I like to do other things, but primarily I want to talk about mental health on this channel, and I've still not done my mental health story or a video about my anxiety, and I thought that was something that I really think is important. I am always talking about how much I want to raise stigma, and I think the best way to raise stigma is by telling people your story and telling people what you've gone through with mental health and telling people how you've gone through and gotten through your hard times of your mental health experiences. So for me to not have told you my story, I think is quite hypocritical maybe. I want to tell you everything that I've gone through, but I think that would take way too long. So I'm just going to give you a brief outline of when my anxiety started, different anxieties I've had in my life and how I've coped with it. What is it? What is it, Mrs.? What have you got in your eye? Whenever I see any kind of mental health discussions or programs about mental health, I always watch them and I find them really interesting, and I love when I see them. I feel like it's kind of like a community we have, and it's kind of like no matter what mental health you're going through, if you're going through anxiety or depression or whatever, you can still relate to somebody else that's having a different experience from you, because you know what it's like to not be in control of your body or in control of your mind or that kind of thing. But something that kind of annoys me is that I never ever see anxiety programs. I never see things about people that are suffering really badly with anxiety. I don't know if that's just because I've not been looking in the right places, but it's something that I think so many people suffer with, and it's something that isn't talked about enough. No mental health illness is talked about enough, but I feel like a lot of people talk about depression. When you think of a mental illness, you think of depression, but I myself have just suffered with anxiety. I've never suffered with another mental health illness really. It's pretty much just been anxiety, and I wanted to tell you how I've gone through that, because I feel like it's really not talked about enough, and I really want everybody to know what anxiety can be like and how debilitating it can be. I don't even want to make a disclaimer, but I'm going to anyway, in that I am by no means trying to be attention seeking. I'm by no means trying to whatever. I just want to tell you what I've gone through, and I want other people to be able to like relate to what I'm going through, because I know I'm definitely not the only one that's going through this or has gone through it. So I hope that this can be something you can relate to, or something that can comfort you in some way. I hope it helps you in some way, I don't know. So my anxiety started, my real anxiety, when I was about 10. I moved school and I moved house in about 6 months of each other, so everything was different. Completely different scenery, completely different people, different teachers, everything was completely different and everything changed, and it was so scary for me. So after a couple of months of being at school, I ended up taking about 3 weeks off when I was in primary 5, because it was just too much for me and I felt really sick all the time. I didn't think it was anything to do with anxiety, I just felt sick. My parents didn't think it was anything to do with mental health, they just thought I wasn't well or I was feeling sick. But by the end of the 3 weeks, I think people were thinking, oh, she's faking it, like she can't be this sick, she's not even been sick, like there can't really be anything that wrong with her, let's just send her back to school. So basically they sent me back to school and I had panic attacks every single day. I had a severe panic attack, and it wasn't just like a little panic attack, it was a really massive panic attack. I felt like I couldn't breathe, felt like I was going to faint, felt like horrible, and it was just really difficult. Luckily the teacher I had at the time was really nice. He actually came up with the idea of whenever I had a panic attack, he would ask one of my friends to take me on a walk around the school, and he gave me this purple bag, and inside was loads of different tricks to make your mind, like to occupy your mind. So there'd be things in there like say the alphabet backwards or count to 100, or there'd be loads of different like tricks in the bag. So he was a really good teacher. He really probably didn't really know what was going on, probably didn't really understand what was happening, but he tried his total best to try and make me feel comfortable in class, and he really helped me, because after that I stopped having anxiety, or I didn't have anxiety as much at all. And the rest of my primary school I think was fine as far as I remember. I don't remember having anxiety after that. Maybe I was probably more anxious than other people, but I didn't have like anxiety. Moving into high school I became a bit more anxious. I was more anxious than my friends, I'd say, but still, like, I didn't really have anxiety. Around this time though, doctors and my parents and stuff started thinking there is something wrong with me. I'm always feeling sick, I'm always feeling faint, there must be something wrong with me. So I was going through a whole series of tests, which all pretty much came back there was nothing wrong with me. So nothing was clinically wrong with me, there was nothing medically wrong with me, so I was fine. I was making it up, there was nothing wrong with me. In around second year is when I started seeing my first therapist. That's when people realise, okay, there's something wrong with her. There's something that's not quite right. Let's see what a therapist can do. I don't know if I was going through depression at this time, but when I was in second year I was definitely sad most of the time. I felt pretty shit all of the time. I was always crying, always upset. I was never ever really happy when I was in second year. Things got to me so much more than other people, and I was always anxious and feeling really sad, and I was just never ever ever happy. And I think a lot of people saw this as me being attention seeking or making it up or something else, and that was quite hard to know that people didn't believe me or didn't think there was something wrong with me. And when I knew I wasn't, like, this wasn't normal, and I knew that I felt so sad for no reason at all, and it was quite a difficult thing to go through. So I started seeing a therapist, and that did absolutely nothing. That didn't help in any way at all. So eventually we just thought, okay, well, there's no point doing this. I'll get better by myself, it's fine. So for the rest of my high school it was very up and down. I would have weeks and months that I was fine and I didn't feel anxious at all. I could go out with my friends whenever I wanted to. I could get on buses very easily. I was pretty much fine. And then there would be months where I felt very anxious and I couldn't really go to school some days, or I would have panic attacks and have to leave class. It was very up and down. I had difficult times with teachers quite a lot if I had to leave the room. Sometimes teachers would be really horrible about it, sometimes teachers would be absolutely amazing about it. So there's a big part of school that was very varied. It just depended on day to day whether I felt anxious or not. When I was in fourth year is when I had probably my first really big issue with anxiety. I started to become very, very anxious all of the time. I had really bad panic attacks a lot, and I was just very, very anxious. I was fairly happy, I was more happy, but I was just very, 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 very anxious. So I was prescribed fluoxetine, which is an antidepressant, which, looking back, I think the reason it didn't work is because I didn't take it every day. My heart was not in it at all. I wasn't really that interested. I didn't think it was going to work. I just didn't take it, and that's probably why it didn't work. But I was just like, it's not working, there's something wrong with me. But in actual hindsight, it's probably because I didn't take it and I wasn't actually that interested in taking it. So because the medication wasn't working, they decided to take me to a therapist, a cognitive behavioural therapist. This is when, like, things got really, really, really bad. I started seeing this therapist who, I'm not gonna lie, was really rubbish. She forgot my name pretty much every week when I went in. There were some things she helped me with, but most of the time she was just really not what I wanted in a therapist, and it was quite difficult. But I kept going back to her. I actually ended up going in there having anxiety, and that was it, and I came out with a really, really severe OCD problem. I suffered with OCD so extremely badly. I couldn't say certain words, I wasn't allowed to walk in a certain way, I couldn't kiss my boyfriend whenever I wanted, I couldn't hug him whenever I wanted. Everything in my life completely changed. I couldn't do what I wanted to do ever. I was constantly scared of my friends falling out with me or being sick. I was just so paranoid all the time. I thought everybody hated me, and I was just going through a really hard time. And the way my brain coped, like a lot of anxiety people, their brain copes in a way that's, okay, my friends won't fall out with me if I do this, and I tap that 5 times. My friends won't fall out with me if I text them and say hi 3 times. Or it was just really bizarre things that of course had no connection, but I made the connection in my head that if I did them, my friends would fall out with me and I wouldn't be sick, and that was how it worked. So for, I'd say, a couple of years after that, my life was absolutely so difficult. It was just filled with OCD, and that was just the most difficult thing I think I've ever been through. OCD is so difficult, and it's something that is not talked about enough, and it's just, I'm going to make a whole other video on my OCD story, or OCD, because it's just, I want to talk about it more, but this video is mainly about anxiety, so I just want to leave that out just now. But it was really hard. After I left school, I went to college to study social sciences, so it's like politics, psychology, sociology, everything I am so interested in and I absolutely love. I am really, really into politics and psychology and sociology, and it's very interesting to me. So I was at college for about 4 months, and that was such a difficult 4 months. I would go up to college every single day, and every single day I'd be faced with the same, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be sick everywhere. This is actually when I realised I had a very big phobia of sick. I had a emetophobia where I am absolutely petrified of sick. College was just so difficult because I loved it. I loved the course. I really liked the people that I was on a course with. I made some really nice friends. The lecturers were all so lovely, most of them, and it was just really difficult. I was kind of in my brain, it was like, do I keep going and keep trying because that's what I should do, or do I leave and try and get better with my anxiety? And that was just in my mind the whole 4 months. But pretty much I didn't really go to classes. I would go up to the classroom door, have a panic attack, and have to go and sit in the library by myself, and trying to explain to people that you've just met what you're going through with anxiety is something that's very difficult. So after 4 months I decided to leave college. I thought that would be the best thing for me. So I left, and I decided for the next few months I'm just gonna chill out and try my best to do normal things like getting on a bus and going out with my friends and try and do those kind of things. That isn't what happened at all. This is when I had a complete breakdown. I left college hoping that everything would kind of go into place and it would help a lot more. I actually ended up getting very, very, very ill. I couldn't leave the house at all. If I walked outside of my door, if I walked down the street, I would have a full-blown panic attack. I felt sick all of the time. The only time I didn't feel sick is when I was lying in my bed with the room completely black, watching a YouTube video with an ice pack on my stomach, and it was just like, I felt so ill. I just felt so sick all the time, and I got to the point I would really not leave my house for months, give or take maybe a couple of trips out. I just found life unbearable. My parents would try to help me as best they could. They kind of say, okay, let's go to this place, we can leave whenever you want to, blah blah blah. And I would just feel so ridiculously sick and anxious that I couldn't do it. Like, I just couldn't do anything. Everything was completely out of the question. It was just the most horrific time of my life. After a few months I went to the doctor and I said, you need to help me. I am very, very, very ill. I can't do anything. Please help me. And I had a really nice doctor, and she subscribed me citalopram, which is the best thing that's ever happened to me in my life. Citalopram has made me a different person. It has really just given me my whole life back. I still can't get on buses all the time. I still can't go uptown whenever I like. I'm still very, very limited in what I can do. But it is so different. I can walk down the street and feel not a thing, no anxiety whatsoever. I can go to the shop 10 minutes away and not feel any anxiety at all and just feel fine. And it's just, oh, it's just amazing. I'm not saying that you have to go on antidepressants, but I'm saying you should give them a go, try different ones, see if they work for you. If they don't, that's fine, there'll be plenty of other options out there. But for me, they've helped so much, and I really recommend anybody that's suffering with anxiety to try antidepressants and see how you get on with them. When the citalopram started working, I started to feel a lot more confident again. I started to feel like I can do this, things are getting better, and I started volunteering at a charity shop about 15 minutes away from where I live, about a 15-minute walk. So every Tuesday and Thursday I take like a 15-minute nice walk down to the charity shop, and I work for about 5 hours each time, and I've met some really nice people. I have gotten so much more confidence. I really enjoy working there. I would love to have money. I would love to be able to earn money, but I know that's not something that I need yet, and it's not something that is maybe I'm not able to do yet. But the two things that I want you to think about in this video is, if you're unemployed at the moment and you can't work because of your mental illness, really seriously consider a charity shop, volunteering at a charity shop. It can be for 1 hour a week. There's no like time you have to do. You can do it for 1 hour a week if you want to. And also look into antidepressants and see which ones out there are suitable for you and which ones could work for you. I have a feeling this video is very long, and I never intended it for it to be this long, so I'm really sorry if this has been too long. I hope that some of you have taken some comfort from this. I hope that some of you can relate to it in some way, or you found it interesting or interested to know more about how anxiety can affect people. Whoever you are, if you're suffering with mental illness, try your best to raise the stigma, try your best to talk to people about what you're going through. That's the best way to make people understand, or to help people to understand what you're going through. That's the end of this video. I've spoken so much, I literally feel like I can't produce words now. Oh my god. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you enjoyed it in some way. I'll see you soon.